There.
We're here. Ready. Hello, good evening. Good evening, everybody. I tell you what in the southwest at the moment, right? It's been really nice. Next minute's raining, and it's all mixed. And you don't know what to do with the weather, but never mind, it's gonna get there. Guys, if you're listening on the radio, welcome. And I love that music just now. I love that sort of music. I like the old 50s and the 60s music. And you can listen to more soon after this and after this program here. In the meantime, guys, if you've got any messages or anything, please contact us on the podcast page. Or if you're listening at home, sitting down there watching the television and everything, switch off the telly and listen to me and Paul. That's what that's what we're all about. Come and listen to us. Paul, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. And just to reiterate what Steve said, turn the telly off because there's nothing more attractive on the television than me and Steve. So just switch it off, hit the remote.
That's it. Just hit the remote and just put it on pause or turn it off straight away and come and listen to us. And we're on YouTube, we're on all around the world, we're on the radio, and we got people from China and Singapore on at the moment listening to us. Welcome and good listening. Paul, tell everybody about yourself.
Oh my God, how long have we got? I mean,
Only a few
I,
minutes.
only a few minutes. Okay, well, this is my second time on the show, so thanks again for the invitation,
Yeah, yeah.
Steve.
We love you having you on.
Brilliant. I'm a mindset coach. I'm a hypnotherapist slash hypnotist and a bit of a healer. I've been only doing this for since 2018. And before that, I spent 25 years in the corporate world working in a place called the Channel Tunnel. I've always had a lifelong interest in the mind and this thing called mesmerism and hypnosis and neuroscience and all that kind of stuff. And I decided to leave the corporate world, take a big leap into the dark, and I kind of ended up doing something that I'm really, really passionate about, which is helping other people with these skills that I've kind of picked up through work in the corporate world. So I was a bit of a mentor and a coach whilst I was in the corporate world, and then I've learned some hypnosis and other skills along the way, and that's me in a nutshell.
There you go. And so let's go to hypnosis. All right, let's talk about that. Does it work?
Well, Mike, ask my clients, are they going to say yes, mate? It works. Well, let me just put a bit of a proviso on that. When it comes to dealing with an issue that you have, it works if you want it to work. And what I mean by that is, I get a lot of wives contact me saying, Paul, my husband has got a problem with X. Can you help him? And I say no, without actually ever having met the husband, because unless the husband himself does two things, which is reaches out to me himself, and secondly, accepts and understands that he's got a problem, then it just isn't going to work. I mean, I had somebody just before we spoke last, I think it was Steve, who she came to me and said, my husband's got a problem drinking. I went, well, that's, I'm sorry about that. Does he know he's got a problem drinking? And she went, no, because he thinks, 3 or 4 pints of beer a night isn't a problem. So, he doesn't see it as a problem. And I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't help you because unless the client recognizes they've got an issue, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But having said that, you can still, if you've got the time and the expertise and the funding, you can pretty much get people to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, governments have been spent billions on this over the years, and it is doable. If you've read things like the Manchurian Candidate and other things, you've seen films like Zero Dark 30 and stuff like that. You'll see it in action.
Right, okay. I'll probably have a look at some time with that for that. What does hypnosis therapy do then?
It helps people get rid of unwanted fears, phobias, anxieties. It can help people stop drinking. You can do all kinds of things. The way it works is it works with the subconscious part of the mind, which is probably the most powerful part of the mind. It's kind of like the big controller of the mind. It's the one that holds our dreams, our fantasies, our imagination, our creativity, our intellect. And that's what kind of run the shows. The rational brain, the bits that's listening to us now and maybe watching the TV on silent in the corner, that's the bit that thinks it runs the show. But the real ringmaster is the bit that's hidden behind that we very rarely get in contact with.
Right. Okay. Now, when you kind of like, is hypnosis good for stress?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, well, let me just qualify that. Stress is a natural part of us. It's a way we're able to deal with things. Like, for example, let me give you an example. If we go back to the days when we lived in caves, yeah, and there were lots of predators around, if I was walking with my mates down across a field and we saw a tiger and we went, oh, look, big pussycat, let's go and give it a stroke, what's going to happen? We're likely going to be lunge for the cat, yeah?
Yeah.
Because we're not afraid. There's no adrenaline rush. So to survive, we have to go into one of the three modes: fight, flight, or freeze, which means either we run away because we're scared of it, we stand and fight because there's lots of us and we've got sticks and rocks and stuff to chuck at the tiger, or we play dead, which is what a lot of animals do in the animal world. Because they can't run away, they will actually play dead and in the hope that the predator will get bored and go away. So stress is a natural component in our lives. Where it becomes a problem is when the stress starts to outlive its usefulness.
Right.
Insofar as, like, for example, you've got a meeting with your boss tomorrow and you get stressed about it, you get worried about it, you spend all night thinking about this meeting. You might drink too much to try and get rid of the pain of you think, the future thinking, and you get, you start to have all these kind of anxious thoughts and anxious feelings, and you don't sleep at night, you wake up early, you drink too much coffee, you get irritated, you become irritable, and you go and have the meeting with the boss. It turns out to be worse than you thought it was going to be because you acted in a way that kind of wound your boss up. So stress is a natural part of our being, but in certain circumstances, it becomes a detriment. It becomes something that works against us.
How long does the process take
How do you mean?
for hypnosis? So if I wanted to be kind of like, if I went for appointment for hypnosis, how long does it take?
Right. That's kind of like how long's a piece of string. I worked with a client once, and in less than 25 minutes, we'd solved the problem. But to be fair, on average, for me, with working with a client, it takes about 3 sessions. The bulk of the work, removing the problem, gets done in the first session in the first 45 minutes to an hour or so. The second session is there to kind of deal with any remaining bits that are kind of stuck and have raised their ugly heads in the intervening time. And the third week or the third session is to kind of double check that we've got rid of everything, and then to give the client some kind of tips and tricks that they can use themselves to deal with stuff that comes up in the future.
Right. Okay. And what do you, as hypnosis and mind coach, what kind of help can, if someone came up to you now and said, right, Paul, I need help with anxiety, say, let's just leave it for anxiety for a sec. Um, what what do you do? What's the talk me through it?
Okay, right. Well, the first thing I need to do is to find out if I can help that person. That's the most important thing, because there's no point in me taking someone on and trying to do something when I know clearly that I'm not going to be able to help them. This could be somebody that's had anxiety issues the past, since they were a kid. if they're on medication, if they've got a family history of anxiety, that particular person might be better off going to see their GP first. In fact, I'd be surprised if they hadn't seen their GP. Yeah, because that level of anxiety is really has a major effect on a person's life. So I find out if I can help them.
Right.
If we then decide we can work together, we book the first session, and then during that first session, we do a couple of things. First of all, we find out what the root cause of the anxiety is. Let me give you an example. Although you might not believe this, a phobia is also anxiety. It's being worried about. What kind of example can I give? Let's have a think for a second. I know, yeah. Let's say, for example, I had a client, this is 3 years ago, and she had a phobia, which is basically a massive fear of a specific thing. She had a phobia of spiders. Okay. And she is a very strong, very powerful, real alpha female. And she saw this as a chink in her armor, that if she was on a road in her house, and she saw a spider, she would, go and ask a neighbor to come and deal with it. And if there were no neighbors around, she would leave the house and wait for her husband to come back before she could go back in the house. And it was so bad that her husband and my client here were going to buy a house in the country. They were about the next morning, they were going to go and sign all the paperwork and hand over a deposit, all that kind of stuff. And she had a dream/nightmare that she was laying in bed in this new house, and the ceiling of the bedroom suddenly turned into like a bazillion spiders that came down. They didn't bite her or anything. They just came down and started running around. And she said to her husband the next morning, I can't buy this house.
Cool.
So that's an excessive fear, because in the UK, spiders are harmless. Yes, okay, there's the false, the false wolf spider or something, which can give you like a bee sting. But we don't have, really nasty, like the black widow. We don't have any of those in this country. We don't have tarantulas that can bite you. We don't have nasty, evil spiders.
Gosh.
But people are still afraid of them.
That is one thing I'm afraid of, is spiders.
So I get it. A lot of people are, Steve. A lot of people are. So what we did was, the first session, we found out what had actually caused this phobia, this fear of spiders, and it went back to when she was a kid. And if you're into an old cast iron bath, they're generally pure white, aren't they?
Yeah.
And under the tap, there's that kind of hole, which is the overflow hole. So if you overfill the bath, the water kind of runs down there instead of that splashing over the side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we worked out that my client, she was about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, something around that age. And she was lying in the bath, which is white, bright white. And in her own words, this big, huge black spider came out of the hole and started running around the rim of the bath. And she was petrified because it was a shock. It came out of nowhere. It's a dark colored spider. It contrasts heavily against its surroundings. And she got scared. And the brain went, ooh, that's a big, nasty, evil thing that can kill us. We are now going to do everything we can to avoid being in contact with spiders in the future. And so from that moment, right the way through the rest of her childhood into adulthood, her subconscious mind put this huge amount of negative associations around the word spider, around that particular event. And that's what created this phobia. So once we found that, once we discovered that was the root cause of the issue, we dealt with it. And now, she's quite happy to deal with spiders. And now spiders on her own. Now, just be very clear here. Her goal was never to be able to go to a zoo and pick up a tarantula and kind of play with it and stroke it. It was to be able to not to be afraid of spiders so that she could deal with one if she saw one in the house, put a piece of paper in a glass and chuck it out in the garden, that kind of thing. And that's what we did. And that work was done in the first session. And then we kind of double checked it in the second session. And I gave her some tools and stuff in the third session, and it was sorted.
Good. Now, can therapy can it be expensive?
Yeah, I'm expensive. I mean, some people that I know charge 25 quid an hour because to them it's a hobby. It's it's something they do for a bit of fun, and because they've got somebody else that's paying the mortgage and paying all the bills and stuff. And that's fine. Absolutely. And there are lots and lots and lots of people that are like that. The problem is because it's a hobby, they don't take it that seriously. They don't keep up their training levels and they don't work with lots of clients. I work with lots of people and I worked with a whole range of things. I mean, let me just think of some spiders, cutting down on drinking, food, smoking, hating men to getting back into a loving relationship. What else have I done? Oh, one of the most interesting ones was somebody who couldn't stand the smell of chip fat fries and deep fat fries, things that, like those burgers cooking on a grill, that kind of thing, and everything in between.
Gosh, that is something that yeah. Um, and if people want to contact you, how do they do that?
The best way to contact me is, well, I'm on most of the social media challenges. I'm on most of the social media channels. I'm on Facebook, Paul Wilson Coaching. I'm on Instagram, Paul Wilson Coaching. LinkedIn, I think let me just check. That's Paul Wilson Coaching as well. Where are we? Second. Yeah, so LinkedIn, Paul Wilson Coaching. Twitter, I think is Paul Wilson Coach, and I'm even on blooming TikTok. There you go, which is a
What
lot
you
of fun
doing on
actually.
TikTok?
I just talk, put some funny things on my head, from the little apps you can use in there. I do not twerk my backside, and I do not sing and dance. I can't sing, definitely. I talk to people. I give people tips and tricks of how they can deal with certain things, how they can get out of their own way, how they can deal with imposter syndrome, because a lot of that comes from anxiety as well. So it's just the things that I'm interested in.
And if if someone comes to you today and they need some help, all they've got to do is just contact you, and you will kind of like do assessment. Is it assessment?
Uh, it's a chat. I mean, yeah, I guess officially it's probably an assessment. But what I do is somebody rings me up or messages me and says, "Paul, can you help me out?" What we do is we book a call, and basically I sit down for half an hour with the client over the phone or Zoom or something, and I listen. I ask questions and I listen to what the client has to tell me. And whilst the client is talking, I'm able then to decide, yes, I can help that person, or no, I can't help that person. And I do turn people away. It doesn't happen very often, but yeah, I do turn, because the way I do my marketing is I'm very specific about, how I work with people. But I still turn people away. I turned somebody away a while back because she was hearing voices. And I asked her what the voices were telling her to do. And she said to me, the voices are telling me that I've got to go and hurt people. So I immediately said, look, what's your doctor's number? And she gave me the doctor and said, right, call your doctor now while I'm on this Zoom call with you, because it's very important that you get seen immediately. And she did. And there was no way that I could work with that person because she needed professional psychiatric care, and I'm not a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much for coming back on.
My pleasure, sir.
That was really, really, really interesting and really, really good. And hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Well, I am.
Yeah, well, we're going to book you in right now. So I'll get my wife to sort it out. And it's nice to have you on board. And thank you very much for coming back because you're helping a lot of people. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Nice to see you again, Steve. Take care now.
Yeah, and you. Bye bye.
Bye now.